The Battle of Edington would prove to be a historical turning point for the Anglo-Saxons in their struggle against the Vikings. The kingdoms of Mercia, Northumberland, and East Anglia had been ravaged by the Viking armies for years. It was now the turn of Wessex to endure the onslaught of the ruthless Guthrum and his Danish army. As the last independent Anglo-Saxon kingdom, Wessex and Alfred were all that stood against the Vikings' total control of England. In the years leading to the battle, Wessex had endured various raids along its coastline. The Saxons depended on levies that made up the main body of their army. These levies consisted mainly of farmers with often basic armor and weapons. Unlike the Vikings, who operated as a professional army, many Viking raiders were seasoned fighters having traveled on yearly expeditions with various Viking warlords. On the 6th of January 878, during the Christmas festival, Guthrum attacked Chippenham. The attack caught Alfred by surprise and may have been orchestrated with the help of disgruntled Saxon lords. Alfred barely escaped capture and fled with his men to the Somerset marshes. He would stay the winter at Athelney. It was during this period that the legendary story of the burning of the cakes is born. The legend tells of Alfred taking shelter with a peasant woman who had left him to watch over wheaten cakes that were on the fire. Alfred, being too preoccupied with the loss of his kingdom, had not noticed the cakes start to burn, leading to the peasant woman scolding the Saxon king. Between the 4th and 7th of May, Alfred summoned a levy at Egbertstone. Men from Somerset, Wiltshire, and Hampshire rallied to the call of their king. Alfred would march his army to the site of Edington for one final confrontation with Guthrum. The two armies formed across from one another as the men sounded their battle cries. The clatter of spears against shield carried for miles as thousands of men stood ready to fight for control of England. After hours of vicious hand-to-hand combat, the Saxon army slowly gained the upper hand. Eventually, the Danes fell into retreat. Those who survived the wrath of the Saxon army fell back to Chippenham. Alfred laid siege to the city for 2 weeks before Guthrum sued for peace. As part of the settlement between the two armies, it was agreed that Guthrum would be baptized as a Christian. Guthrum was baptized at Aller in Somerset with Alfred as his sponsor. It is possible that the enforced conversion was an attempt by Alfred to lock Guthrum into a Christian code of ethics, hoping it would ensure the Danes' compliance with any treaties agreed to. The converted Guthrum took the baptismal name of Athelstan. In 886, the Treaty of Alfred and Guthrum defined the boundaries of their two kingdoms. The kingdom of Mercia was divided up, with part going to Alfred's Wessex and the other part to Guthrum's East Anglia. The agreement also defined the social classes of Danish East Anglia and their equivalents in Wessex. It tried to provide a framework that would minimize conflict and regulate commerce between the two peoples. It is not clear how seriously Guthrum took his conversion to Christianity, but he was the first of the Danish rulers of the English kingdoms to mint coins on the Alfredian model. Under his baptismal name of Athelstan, Guthrum reigned as king in East Anglia until his death in 890, and although this period was not always peaceful, he was not considered a threat. After the defeat of Guthrum at the Battle of Edington, Alfred's reforms to military obligations in Wessex made it increasingly difficult for the Vikings to raid successfully. By 896, the Vikings had given up, with some going to East Anglia and others going to Northumbria. It was under Alfred that the Viking threat was contained. However, the system of military reforms and the burghelhittage introduced by Edward the Elder enabled Alfred's successors to retake control of the lands occupied in the north of England by the Danes, laying the foundation for the unification of England.